Hey everybody, it's your boy Killer B, the goddamn Witch Finder General. Which I'll burn their asses up. I got a good show tonight, just like last night, night before. Had some great shows. If you guys missed it, make sure you check them out. This is something I wanted to do for a little bit. I had something else planned for the night, and then I just thought of it. And I was like, hey, why not just get this out of the way? I have a really old book from 1900 on the writings of Thomas Jefferson. So we're going to see some of the things, some of the thoughts, and, things that Thomas Jefferson spoke on, his opinions, and stuff like that about Thomas Jefferson. And I'm going to be going over his writings and his views on bigotry, Bible, slavery, African Americans, Native Americans, and whatever else I might come across. So, you guys hold tight, play intro, and I'll see you right back.
In the pursuit and interrogation and inhumanity the man portrayed on the screen so vividly that you flinch. This man showed no mercy in the pursuit and interrogation of his victims. He was called the Witch Finder General.
Witch finding ain't easy. Fuck your trick one. Get this one. Y'all can get your heads lost, spin away like prison. Intelligence agencies trace today. Seeing what I did lately, amazing. They not seeing all the sheep grazing. Flaming pins of Josh, get rocked. Mountaintops go fly. Right enough, fight enough. Yet I'm so nice when I expose. Fuck y'all clothes, costume shop rolls. Catch info like a stroll. Feeling old, so grab a switch. I'ma extol my foes cause they snitch. Since they can't ruin me, I'ma ruin them. That chopped off head will still spin. Burning witches in they sin. You can't lie, you can't die. I know what y'all said. Just as flesh decay, but eternally, I don't see it that way. Pave the road clear is what you said, but your cult gonna leave people dead. Claim God, but God don't know you. Watch your desires overthrow you. Man fall down, man go boom. Mask wearing like doom. All caps like y'all yelling. That's a rap. Might as well be felons. Y'all words will never see on YouTube acting precious. Mr. Nexus, feel the sun from the solar plexus. Tasting breakfast, finding all those devices that detect us. Yo, show respect, cuz.
What line of business might it be? God's business. Witch finding. Witch finding. Oh, that's nice.
Y'all be looking for that next buzz or some buzz. Watch the general pull plugs. Internet warriors caught up in dark corridors. Fiction like Mordor. Should've stayed on the floor. Y'all know no origins. Laugh at orphans, even though we got royal blood coursing. No more horsing. Real life's more important. Y'all speaking curses on yourself. Claiming God and no one else. Blast you off the shelf. Burn your whole library. See them do it. Look, y'all claim and learn. Reading from the Jewish books. Y'all some cookie crooks. Lips caught up with a hook. Spooky beats drive me wild. Get stabbed, my knife holding child. Old man, old style. Used to pull kelp out the Nile. And I did it with a smile. Fake roots, smell vile. Rock like Hendrix at the aisle. After a while, see Egyptians on trial. Yeah, you, the one claiming brew. Unglued and unruly. Expose their actions fully. Call me a bully, that's fine. This is how you get bullied straight from the mind. Burning them. We cats out there, you have faith in y'all. They can read all this, and know all this. Claiming they speaking languages, curses.
Be the first to see it. Be the first to talk about it. The Witch Finder General.
That's right. Witch Finder General. burning these foods in their sin. So, that's all again tonight. That was a good show last night. I screamed. Well, I don't know if they YouTube. I didn't check to see if the YouTube put the whole show up. But information packed. Sister Cherry Love came on, shut it down as usual. You know what I'm saying? We had Ratchet Craig in the building, which I hit up. Ratchet Craig, you talking about send it direct to you. I'll send it direct, nigga. Get your ass on talk about this. This good subject to talk with you on. Yeah, so we can try to have some fun tonight. You can see what's going on in this book here. Now, this book was chilling in my breezeway for a while, so I went out there, seen it. I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna do the show with this book. So, again, let's put this information. Let's talk about this book here real quick before I get into it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Just gonna get a quick breakdown of it. Okay. Okay. This book is a 1,000-page alphabetical compilation of the thoughts of Thomas Jefferson. The entries are taken from the 12-volume collections of his works edited by Paul Leicester Ford. It also includes numerous illustrations of Jefferson and a detailed topical index with cross-references to other entries in the encyclopedia. The volume is also an excellent source for quotations by Jefferson on thousands of topics. Why not? Before I get into this, I actually have a friend that's a descendant of Thomas Jefferson. Or was it George Washington? I forgot the two, but I'm pretty sure it's Thomas Jefferson. 700, hopefully it's easy. All right, so Jefferson. So Thomas Jefferson was born April 13th, 1743, and died 1826. Keep that in mind too. He died in 1826. Was an American statesman, diplomat, lawyer, architect, philosopher, and founding father who served as the third president of the United States from 1801 to 1809. He had previously served as the second vice president of the United States between 1797 and 1801. So this man was pretty busy. He had many hats. So, I don't know too many people today that was all these things at this moment. He was the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson was a proponent of democracy, republicanism, and individual rights, motivating American colonists to break from the Kingdom of Great Britain and form a new nation. He produced formative documents and decisions on both the state and national levels. So during the Revolution, Thomas Jefferson represented Virginia in the Continental Congress that adopted the Declaration of Independence. As the Virginia legislator, he drafted a state law for religious freedom. He served as the second governor of Virginia from 1779 to 1781. During the American Revolutionary War in 1785, Jefferson was appointed to United States Minister of France and subsequently the nation's first Secretary of State under President George Washington from 1790 to 1793. Jefferson and James Madison organized a Democratic Republican Party to oppose the Federalist Party during the formation of the first party system. With Madison, he anonymously wrote the provocative Kentucky and Virginia resolutions in 1798 and 1799, which sought to strengthen state rights by nullifying the federal Alien and Sedition Acts. As president, Jefferson pursued the nation's shipping and trade interests against the Barbary pirates and aggressive British trade policies. Starting in 1803, Jefferson promoted a Western expansionist policy, organizing the Louisiana Purchase, which doubled the nation's land area. To make room for settlement, Jefferson began a controversial process of Indian tribal removal from the newly acquired territory. As a result of peace negotiations with France, his administration reduced military forces. Jefferson was reelected in 1804. His second term was beset with difficulties at home, including a trial of former Vice President Aaron Burr. In 1807, American foreign trade was diminished when Jefferson implemented the Embargo Act in response to British threats of U.S. shipping. The same year, Jefferson signed an act prohibiting importation of slaves. Hear that? 1807. That happened. The same year, Jefferson signed the act prohibiting the importation of slaves. I think that's fine. Better get on that and get into this book. All right. So where are we going to start off? Let's see if anybody up in here with me. Oh, nobody up in here with me? Okay. Right. No, I'm just going to get right into it. Y'all missed it. Y'all missed it. All right. Let's get right into this. Where I'm going to start. So the beginning of first topic, bigotry. Right? So, all right. So these are just basically like excerpts of some of his writings that they took out on certain topics. So I guess like if he was writing something and he mentioned a certain thing, they categorized that segment out of that writing and put it in this book, categorized under the topic of what it was written. He talks about the circulation of the Bible. That's what we're going to start off with. Circulation of the Bible. He said, I had not supported, I'm sorry, I already starting off. I had not supposed there was a family in this state, Virginia, not possessing a Bible and wishing without having the means to procure one. When in earlier life, I was intimate with every class. I think I never was in a house where that was the case. However, circumstances may have changed, and the Bible Society, I presume, have evidence of the fact. I therefore enclose you cheerfully an order of $50 for the purpose of the society. This was written to Samuel Greenhouse in 1814. Right? It says the mortality in the Bible. There never was a more pure and sublime system of mortality delivered to man than is to be found in the four evangelists. That was also written to Samuel Greenhouse in 1814. We can talk about Protestants. Welcome the first person up in the room. This isn't I don't have a PDF. I have an actual book. Um, oh, it'll come. Protestants in the Bible. As to tradition, if we are Protestants, we reject all tradition and rely on the scripture alone. For that is the essence and the common principle of all the Protestant churches. That was in his right on the notes on religion. That was written in 1776. So we're gonna get through this thing. If y'all is coming in, after we get through these topics, if there's enough people in the room and somebody will come out and talk, we might talk about some random topics afterwards. So let's hold tight. We'll see what happens. On the translation of the Bible, I propose after retirement, among my first employments, to give the Septuagint an attentive perusal. Charles Thompson, that was in 1808. Okay? Let's move on to bigotry. These are just some short writings. Then we're going to get into the stuff where we got a lot more content on bigotry as a disease. Thomas Jefferson says bigotry is a disease of ignorance, of morbid minds, enthusiasm of a free and the boy. Education and free discussion are the antidotes of both. So he's saying that education and free discussion are the antidotes of both. Bigotry is a disease of ignorance, of morbid minds, enthusiasm of the free and the boy. Education and free discussion are the antidotes of both. Okay? And now on the political and religious bigotry. Okay? What an effort of bigotry in politics and religion have we gone through. The barbarians really flattered themselves they should be able to bring back the times of vandalism. When ignorance put everything into the hands and power, when ignorance put everything into the hands of power and priestcraft, all advances in science were prescribed as innovation. They pretended to praise and encourage education, but it was to be the education of our ancestors. We were to look backwards, not forwards, for improvement. The president himself, John Adams, declaring that we were never to expect to go beyond them in real science. See, that's heavy. So like what I'm getting from that is like basically like it's saying, wait, let me read this again. What an effort of bigotry in politics and religion have we gone through. The barbarians really flattered themselves. They should be able to bring back the times of the Vandals. When ignorance put everything into the hands of power and priestcraft, all advances in science were described as innovation. They pretended to praise and encourage education, right? They pretended to praise and encourage education, but it was to be the education of our ancestors. We were to look backwards and not forwards for improvement. That's something what I get from the Hebrew Israelites, right? They don't want to hear about scientific advances, right? And if there's any new science, it has to match up with their doctrine. He said priestcraft. I'm gonna look up that word priestcraft. Let me see. Priestcraft. All right, I'm back. Priestcraft. Priestcraft. Knowledge and work. So they were supposed to match up with this thing. If it went beyond that, you know what I mean? They don't accept it. So this like Hebrew Israelites basically want us to live in Stone Age, among other cults, some other cults and stuff like that. Where they were shunning on any new technology. Let's say, for instance, on computers, right? Computers are invented, this internet thing and stuff, and a church or some religious group, they might say that the computer, the internet's the devil. And you shouldn't be on the internet looking up all this stuff. And they used to say this when I was in Hebrew Israelites. Stop looking up all this stuff online, and we giving you the truth. So basically, they didn't want us to look into things that they were teaching, or look into, what's going on into the world, because they supposed to show you all of that through their teachings. Big self-government and bigotry. Ignorance and bigotry, like other insanities, are incapable of self-government. Right? That's self-explanatory. That's self-explanatory. Right? So so these people, these religious zealots, cult people and stuff, they all hyped up on a doctrine, and they want to rule over the world with their doctrine. Just like they say, they might put in public, all homosexuals should be killed, right? And that's not thinking about the rest of the world. You know what I mean? They want to rule the world when actually they ain't got power of the world, but through their ideology and stuff like that, has their heads like they're superior on this earth, and everybody should listen to them. It's just pretty sad. Right? Said union of bigotries. It said all bigotries hang on one another. That was to John Adams in 1814. So we got the Bible and bigotry. Let's get on to Negroes. And he's gonna say some interesting stuff about Negroes, I might add. He's gonna say some very interesting stuff. Some of it might sound offensive, but then again, you might have to think about a little bit on what he said. Some stuff, I believe I came across that some people might deny, but is that a denial under like truth or what? I don't know. People in the room, welcome. So yeah, we're gonna get on to what Thomas Jefferson thought about Negroes. wow, that's interesting. I didn't see that earlier. I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna get into that too. That's a good topic. Okay, Negroes. It's an awesome book. I was so glad to receive this book. Negroes. Can you spell? Here we go. All right. All right. Start the first one. The amalgamation of Negroes. Their amalgamation with the other color produces a degradation to which no lover of his country, no lover of excellence in the human character can innocently consent. He wrote that to Edward Coles in 1814. Bravery of Negroes. They are at least as brave and more adventuresome, but this may proceed from a want of forethought, which prevents their seeing a danger till it be present. When present, they do not go through, they do not, I'm sorry, when my eyes have got super blurry. Damn. When present, they do not go through with more coolness and steadiness than the whites. Okay, let me read this. They are at least as brave and more adventurous, but this may proceed from a want of forethought, which prevent their seeing a danger till it be present. I heard that. I don't know, right in the chat, I know don't want to head up here. What you think that's what he's saying? So they are at least as brave and more adventurous, but this may proceed from a want of forethought, which prevents their seeing a danger till it be present. When present, they do not go through it with more coolness or steadiness than the whites. So notes on Virginia, right? Negroes in Virginia. We wrote that before in 1782. Colonialization of Negroes. The bill reported by the revisers of the whole code does not itself contain the proposition to emancipate all slaves born after the passing of the act, but an amendment containing it was prepared to be offered to the legislature whenever the bill should be taken up, and further directing that they should continue with their parents to a certain age, then to be brought up at public expense. To tillage, arts, or sciences according to the geniuses, till the females should be 18 and the males 21 years of age, when they should be colonized to such place as the circumstances of the time should render most proper. That got me thinking about what I read in the show last night. I don't think I read it, but I read it before the show. I mentioned it about the people, the deacons and the ministers that was in the first African Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. I noticed that the biographies or the bios of the deacons and the ministers there, that they joined Christianity. It seemed that most of them all joined Christianity in their very early 20s, like 21. And I found that strange because I would think maybe their parents would be Christian. So why wouldn't they be not considered a Christian until they became 21 or 22, 23 would seem to be like the average age. Could that be that, like we read here, that It's talking about like society should, when it comes to pass about these people being emancipated and shit, and become citizens, that they should be taken at the people's expense, and they're genius. So if they're good at building stuff, they should be trained to be engineers and stuff. I guess this is what I'm getting from it: to be kept up with society, to be able to live and do things and contribute to the country just like all the other citizens on the same level. Um, till the females should be 18 and the males should be 21 years of age, when they should be colonized to such place as the circumstances of the time which render most proper, sending them out with arms, implements of household and of the handcraft art, seeds, peers of the useful domestic animals, to declare them a free and independent people, and extend to them our alliance and protection. They shall have acquired strength, and to send vessels at the same time to other parts of the world for the equal number of white inhabitants, to induce them to migrate hither. Proper encouragements were to be proposed. That was Notes on Virginia. That was in 1782. What's that? 4, 5, 6 years. 6 years after the birth of the nation. Um, Other segment in that same writing. This unfortunate difference of color and perhaps of faculty is a powerful obstacle to the emancipation of these people. Many of their advocates, while they wish to vindicate the liberty of human nature, are anxious also to preserve its dignity and beauty. Some of these, embarrassed by the question, what further is to be done with it, join themselves in opposition with those who are uh, actuated by sordid avarice only. Among the Romans, emancipation required but one effort. The slave, when made free, might mix with, without straining, the blood of his master. But with us, a second and necessary, unknown to his history. When free, he is to be removed beyond the reach of mixture. Hmm. You may ask my opinion on the propositions of Mrs. Mifflin to take measures for procuring on the coast of Africa an establishment to which the people of color of these states might from time to time be colonized under the auspice of different governments. Having long ago made up my mind on the subject, I have no hesitation in saying that I have ever thought it to be most desirable measuring which could be adopted for gradually drawing off this part of our population, most advantageously for themselves as well as for us, going from a country possessing all the useful arts, they might be the means of transplanting them among the inhabitants of Africa, and would thus carry back to the country of their origin the seeds of civilization, which might render their sojournment and suffering here a blessing in the end of that country. That was written to John Lynch in 1811. 1811. Ain't none of y'all asses up in here getting this information. So, all right, y'all be the dummies. All right. So we do something like that. I just had a thought to go harass Willie Grits. Willie Grits ain't here with it. That's crazy. I think about Willie Grits all the time. That's a piece of Willie Grits. Like, yeah, share. Facebook jacked my whole sharing game up. Like, it got some crazy thing where I got to do everything like around the time. It's crazy. It's dirty. Dirty. All right, next part in the colonization of Negroes. So basically, he was going for helping these slaves out, setting up something in Africa, and have these slaves that are free with their skills that they learned while they was here in America as slaves, and afterwards to go back to their country and help and take those trinkets of civilization, kind of saying that there was but that's another video that I was gonna do on, but he's saying give these people these skills, bring them back to their country, and let them produce. So, as in to say, all the bad things that had happened to them when they were brought to the Americas, them coming back will actually bestow a blessing on the people by the technology and the knowledge that those people learned in America, and now they're able to come back and share that technology and all the know-how and the things that made America great for what they was great for, and bring it back to their own country, just like people do today. We have East Indians and stuff. They come here for school to learn computer science or be doctors and stuff like that. And what do? They move back to their country and go help their country, where they lived in villages that didn't have medical. Now they got all the skills better than somebody in their country that got to learn the medical field. Now they're able to go back to the country with even more education in that field to help their people. Y'all don't get me. Y'all ain't in here either. So nothing is more to be wished than that the United States would themselves undertake to make such an establishment on the coast of Africa, exclusive of motives of humanity and commercial advantages to be derived from it, might repay all of its expenses. All right, let me read this over. Nothing is to be wished. Nothing is more to be wished than that the United States would themselves undertake to make such an establishment on the coast of Africa, exclusive to motives of humanity, and commercial advances to be derived from it, might repay all its expenses. But for this, the nation mind is not yet prepared. It may perhaps be doubted whether many of these people would voluntarily consent to such an exchange of situation, and very certain that few of those advance to a certain age and habits of slavery would be capable of self-government. Read that again. It may perhaps be doubted whether many of these people will voluntarily consent to such an exchange of situation. And clearly certain, and very certain that few of those advanced to a certain age and habits of slavery would be capable of self-government. This should not, however, discourage the experiment nor the early trial of it. Right? I received in the first, this was written in 1811, I received in the first year of my coming into the administration of the general government a letter from the governor of Virginia, Colonel Monroe, consulting me on the request of the legislature of the state on the means of procuring some of the asylum, to which these people might be occasionally sent. I proposed to him the establishment of Sierra Leone, to which a private company in England had already colonized a number of Negroes, and particularly the fugitives from these states during the Revolutionary War. So they're saying England took a number of Negroes, and particularly the fugitives of these states during the Revolutionary War. So the British that were freeing slaves during the Revolutionary War was bringing them and dropping their ass off at Sierra Leone. They had already colonized a number of Negroes, and particularly the fugitives from the states during the Revolutionary War. And at the same time suggest that if this could be obtained from the Portuguese possessions of South America, right, as next most desirable, the subsequent legislature approving these ideas, I wrote the ensuing year of 1802 to Mr. King, our minister in Europe, London, to endeavor to negotiate with the Sierra Leone Company a reception of such of these people as might be colonized thither. He opened a correspondence with Mr. Welderburn and Mr. Thorpe, secretaries of the company, on the subject in 1803. I received through Mr. King the result that was that the colony was going on, but in a language condition, that the funds of the company were likely to fail as they received no return of profit to keep them up, that they were therefore in treaty with their government to take the establishment off their hands, but that in no event should be willing to receive more of these people from the United States, as it was exactly that portion of the settlers which had gone from hence, which by their idleness and turbulence that kept the settlement in constant danger of dissolution, which could not have been prevented but for the aid of the maroon Negroes from the West Indies, who were more industrious and orderly than the others, and supported the authority of the government in its law. That's interesting. So they're saying the Negroes that were from the West Indies were more industrious. So they were harder working, and they didn't mind following the laws. It's like, and that now this was in 1811. I can see this played out today in my lifetime. Reason I say that, we have black people who have witnessed. Well, I know I have, and I know a lot more black people have witnessed this. Blacks from other places like the West Indies, like Jamaica, Trinidad, Haiti, wherever. As long as they ain't from the United States, if they come from somewhere else in, you see the harder work ethic. You also see Well, Jamaica is like a British colony, I guess. But we see that how black people in America really don't praise the country. But we see in Jamaica, Jamaicans praise England. Like how we would say white people in America praise America, the black Jamaicans in Jamaica praise England just as much as the English. That's from my observation. But it seems like in this writing, he's kind of saying the same thing I just said. And I also observed the same things I've observed. So that's why I'm reading this, because I found some interesting things, and we know that Afrocentrism keeps our mind off of the truth and on hatred and on falsehoods, right? So reading this is real interesting because this is such a long time ago. This is before slaves were freed. Some of this stuff is before the birth of the nation, or right after the birth of the nation, or during the birth of the nation, right? And what we're taught, I wouldn't say the school system taught us this. I would not say the school system taught us this. But Afrocentrism has taught us this, that all the white people were like slave hanging and slave whipping motherfuckers and shit. They're all wicked as motherfucking hell. Like, you know what I mean? And what I'm gonna read tonight, that you're gonna see that some of these people actually had some good intentions or good wishings on us to be a citizen, to be like a citizen amongst them, to be able to provide for themselves just like them, if not better. You know what I mean? We see this man saying these things in these writings. And these are like private writings. It's not like he wrote a book and wrote all this stuff up in here. No, these are from letters where he wrote to people. He wrote to politicians, people that he worked with. Could be people he did business with. You know what I mean? All his notes and letters that he wrote to people. You know, we didn't have the telephone. They had the telephone back then. They had to write a motherfucker a letter. All right? Okay, well, okay. Okay. The effort which I made with Portugal to obtain an establishment for them within our claims in South America. So he was he trying to get land for slaves in South America through the Portuguese? Next part. Elevating Negroes, right? This is Thomas Jefferson thought on elevating Negroes. Nobody, just what I just said, nobody wishes more ardently than I do to see a good system commence for raising the condition, both of their body and mind, to what is ought to be as fast as the imbecility of their present existence, in other circumstances which cannot be neglected, will admit. That was the Benjamin Banneker. That was in 1791. He wrote that to Benjamin Banneker. The future of Negroes. I have supposed that the black man in his present state might not be in body and mind equal to that of the white man. but would be hazardous to affirm that equality cultivated for a few generations, he would not become so. That was the General Clausewitz. That was in 1785. Let me read that again. I have supposed that the black man in his present state might not be in body and mind equal to the white man, but it would be hazardous to affirm that equality equally cultivated for a few generations, he would not become so. All right, the griefs of Negroes. Thomas Jefferson. Their griefs are transient. Their numberless afflictions, which render it doubtful whether heaven has given life to us in mercy or in wrath, are less felt and sooner forgotten with him. That was his notes on Virginia. That was in 1782. Now, he talks on the improvement of Negroes. The improvement of the blacks in body and mind in the first instance of their mixture with the whites have been observed by everyone and proves that their inferiority is not the effect merely of their condition in life. Wow. He said, the improvement of the blacks in body and mind in the first instance of their mixture with the whites has been observed by everyone. It has been observed by everyone. And proves that their inferiority is not the effect of merely of their condition in life. He said, Bishop Gregory wrote to me on the doubts I had expressed 5 or 6 and 20 years ago in notes on Virginia as to the grade of understanding of the Negroes. He sent me his book on the literature of the Negroes. I gotta find that, Bishop Gregory. His credibility has made him gather up every story he could find in men of color, without distinguishing whether black or what degree of mixture. However, slight in mention or light in the authority on which they are quoted. The whole do not amount in point of evidence to what we know ourselves of Banneker. We know he had spiritual trigonometry enough to make almanacs, but not without the suspicion of aid from Eliot, who was his neighbor and friend, and never missed the opportunity of puffing him. So he's saying, that Benjamin Barracker had all this education and science and all this stuff, but they said, but he lived next to Eliot, so Eliot could have always, now that's something that I mentioned before in some of my stuff about slaves that were in the North. I don't know if that was in the North. But it was in Maryland. He also said something about Maryland and slaves too. He's saying that Eliot would go out and he would jump to every opportunity to puff up Banneker. Like, yo, look at this Benjamin Banneker doing today. You know what I mean? So this man was probably helping him with his education and learning things. So we know he had spiritual trigonometry enough to make almanacs, but not without the suspicion of aid from Eliot, who was his neighbor and friend, and never missed the opportunity of puffing him up. I have a long letter from Banneker, which shows him to have had a mind of very common stature indeed. As a Bishop Gregory, I wrote him a very soft answer. It was impossible for doubt to have been more tenderly or hesitantly expressed than that was in the notes of Virginia. And nothing was or is farther from my intentions than to enlist myself as the champion of a fixed opinion where I have only expressed a doubt. St. Domingo will, in time, throw light on the question. That was written to Joe Barlow in 1809. The Negroes versus the Indians. We thought different Negroes and Indians. Comparing them with their faculties of memory, reason, and imagination, it appears to me that in memory, they are equal to the whites. In reason, much inferior, as I think one could scarcely be found capable of tracing and comprehending the investigations of Gilson. And that in imagination they are dull, tasteless, and anomalous. It would be unfair to follow them to Africa for this investigation. We will consider them here. Okay. On the same stage with the whites, and where the facts are not apocryphal on which a judgment is to be formed. It will be right to make great allowance for the difference of condition, of education, of conversation, of the sphere in which they move. Many millions of them have been brought to and born in America. Most of them, indeed, have been confined to tillage, to their own homes and their own society. Yet many of them have been so situated that they might have availed themselves of the conversation of their masters. Many of them have been brought up to the handcraft arts. From the circumstances have always been associated with the whites. Some been liberally educated, and all have lived in countries where the arts and sciences are cultivated to a considerable degree, and I have before their eyes samples of the best works from abroad. The Indians, with no advantages of their kind, will often carve figures of their pipes, not destitute of design and merit. They will crayon out an animal, a plant, or a country, so as to prove the existence of a germ in their minds which only wants cultivation. Wow, that's interesting. They astonish you with strokes of the most sublime oratory, such as prove their reason and sentiment strong, their imagination glowing and elevated. But never yet could I find that a black had uttered a thought above the level of a plain narration. Never saw even one elementary trait of painting or sculpture. Negroes, the industry of Negroes. And opinion is hazardly opinion is hazarded by some, but proved by none. The moral urgencies are not sufficient to induce the Negro to labor. That nothing can do this but physical coercion. But this is a problem which the present age alone is prepared to solve by experiment. I would be a syllogism to suppose a race of animals created without sufficient foresight and energy to preserve their own existence. It is disproved too by the fact that they exist and have existed through all the ages of history. We are not sufficiently acquainted with all the nations of Africa to say that they may not be some of, we are not sufficiently acquainted with all the nations of Africa to say that there may not be some in which habits of industry are established in the arts practice, which are necessary to render life comfortable. The experiment now in progress in St. Domingo, those of Sierra Leone and Cape Maserati are but beginning. Your proposition has its aspects of promise also, and should it not fully answer to calculations and figures, it may yet, in its developments, lead to happy results. That was from Miss Fanny Wright in 1825. So, to the integrity of the Negroes, he wrote, notwithstanding these considerations, which must weaken their respect for the laws of property, we find among them numerous instances of the most rigid integrity, and as many as among their better instructed masters of benevolence, gratitude, and unshaken fidelity. Literary Negroes. Misery is often the parent of the most afflicting touches of poetry. Among the blacks is misery enough. Among the blacks is misery enough. God knows, but no poetry. Love is the particular system of the poet. Their love is ardent, but it kindles the senses only, not the imagination. Religion, indeed, has produced in Phyllis Wheatley, but it could not be produced. It cannot produce a poet. The compositions published under her name are below the dignity of criticism. The hero of the Duncier are to her as Hercules to the author of the poem. Ignatius Sancho has approached nearer to merit in composition than Phyllis Wheatley. Yet his letters do more honor to the heart than the head. They breathe the purest effusions of friendship and general philanthropy, and show how great a degree of labor may be compounded with strong religious zeal. He is often happy in the turn of his compliments, and his style is easy and familiar, except when he afflicts a Shandian fabrication of words. But his imagination is wild and extravagant, escapes incessantly from every restraint of reason and taste, and in the course of vagaries leaves a track of thought in his coherent and eccentric as is the course of a meteor through the sky. Excuse me. His subject should often have led him to a process of sober reasoning, yet we find him always substituting sentiment for a demonstration. Upon the whole thought, we admit him to the first place among those of his own color, who have presented themselves to the public judgment. Yet when we compare him with the writers of the race among whom he lived, and particularly with the epistolary class in which he has taken his own stand, we are compelled to enroll him at the bottom of the column. This criticism supposes the letters published under his name to be genuine, and to have received amendment from no other, and points which would not be of easy investigation. Music. Negroes and music. In music, they are more generally gifted than the whites, with accurate ears for tune and time. Say black people got rhythm, right? He's saying it right here. And we wonder where we get a lot of this stuff from, too. You know, but white people ain't got no rhythm. You know what I'm saying? And like these things, do you know where a lot of these things that you think where they come from? Like I say a lot of this stuff comes from Afrocentrism. And a lot of, like I've said, that Afrocentrism has did a lot of damage to black people in America, where it was set up to give us sense of self-esteem, I guess. That's what they claim. But what I said, with accurate ears for tune and time, and they have been found capable of imagining a small catch. Whether they will be equal to the composition of a more extensive run of melody or a complicated harmony is yet to be proven. Natural history. The opinion that they are inferior in the faculties of reason and imagination must be hazarded by great difference. Justified general conclusion requires many observations, even where the subject may be submitted to the atomical knife, to optical glasses, to analysis by fire or by solvents. How much more than when it is a faculty, not a substance, we are examining, where it eludes the research of all the senses. Yeah. I be saying that shit about myself. Then, where the conditions of his existence are various and variously combined. And like, this shit is sad, because like a lot of this shit where like black people be mad reading that shit. Like, I read it, like, I know, well, goddamn, like, you know what I mean? But I'm like, shit, is it true? And I look at the Hebrew Israelites and shit. And I look at me in 20 years of the Hebrew Israelites and shit. Didn't have enough common sense to figure that shit out. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it funky with y'all. I'm just keeping it funky. And we see this shit all the time. Where it eludes the research of all the senses, where the conditions of its existence are various and variously combined, where the effects of those which are present or absent bid defiance of calculation. Let me add, too, as a circumstance of great tenderness, where our conclusion would degrade a whole race of men from the rank and the scale of being which the Creator may perhaps have given them. To our reproach, it must have said that though for a century and a half we have had under our eyes the races of black and of red men, they have never yet been viewed by us as subjects of natural history. I advance it, therefore, as a suspicion only, that the blacks, whether originally a distinct race or made distinct by time and circumstance, are inferior to whites in the endowment both of body and mind. It is not against experience to suppose that different species of the same genus or varieties of the same species may possess different qualifications. Will not a lover of natural history, then, one who views the nations and all the races of animals with the eyes of philosophy, excuse the effort to keep those in the department of man as distinct as nature has formed? Look here. A little note here at the bottom. It says the instrument proper to them is the banjo, or by the Negro into, corrupted by the Negro into banjo. So a banjo really named, the banjo's name is really a banjier, but the name was changed by black people to banjo, which they brought hither from Africa. Oh, the banjo was brought from Africa, which is the original of the guitar. Its chords being precisely the four lower chords of the guitar. I'll do that. All right. Peculiarities of the Negro. To these objections, which are political, may be added others which are physical and moral. Whether the black of the Negro resides in the reticular membrane between the skin and scarf skin, or in the scarf skin itself, whether it proceeds from the color of the blood, the color of the bile, or from that of some secretion, the difference is fixed in nature. And I'm sorry, my eyes are getting worse. I might be back. is as real as if its seat and cause were better known to us. And is this difference of no importance? Is it not the foundation of a greater or lesser share of beauty in the two races? The expressions of every passion by greater or less suffusion of color, and the one preferable to the eternal monotony which reigns in the countenances that immovable veil of black, which covers all the emotions of the other race. Add to these flowering hair a more elegant symmetry of form, their own judgment in favor of the whites, declared by the preference of them as uniformly as is the preference of the orangutan for the black woman. I think that's saying orangutan. It says orangutan. For the black woman over those of his own species. The circumference of the superior beauty is thought worthy attention in the propagation of our horses, dogs, or other domestic animals. Why not in that of man? Besides those of color, figure, and hair, there are other physical distinctions proving the difference of race. They have less hair on their face and body. They secrete less by the kidneys and more by the glands of the skin, which give them a very strong and disagreeable odor. This greater degree of transpiration renders them more tolerant to heat and less cold than the whites. Perhaps, too, a difference of structure in the pulmonary apparatus, which a late ingenious experimentalist has discovered to be the principal regulator of animal heat, may have disabled them from excreting in the act of inspiration so much of the fluid from the outer air or obliged them in expiration to part with more. That was in 1782. Racial differences. Black supplying by importation of white settlers and vacancies they will leave. Deep-rooted prejudice All right, so I'm back with you. Sorry about that. So where left off? Okay, I'm on the rights of Negroes. So he wrote a lot of stuff on black people. A lot. Getting into slavery. Maybe find something else in there. Close it up. The rights of Negroes. As assured that no person living wishes more sincerely than I do to see a complete refutation of the doubts I have myself entertained and expressed on the grade of understanding of all the Negroes by nature. This is interesting too, because it tells you the dates on which he wrote these things, and you get to see too how maybe his mind might have changed later on. his mind his way of thinking might have changed. Right? Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Like 30 seconds. Get something. Oh, man. All right. Sorry about that. Oh, man. Man. I might need to get glasses. This is crazy. Well, this is a fine print in this book. Old ass book. Okay. What the heck are they? Oh, okay. Rights of Negroes. I have myself entertained and expressed on the grade of understanding allotted to the Negroes by nature, and to find that in this respect they are on a par with ourselves. My doubts were the results of personal observation on the limited sphere of my own state, where the opportunities for the development of their geniuses were not favorable, and those of exercising it still less so. I expressed them, therefore, with great hesitation. But whatever be their degree of talent, it is no measure of their rights, because Sir Isaac Newton was superior to others in understanding. He was not, therefore, lord of the person or property of others. This subject they are gaining daily in the opinion of nations, and hopeful advances are making towards the reestablishment on an equal rooting with the other colors of the human family. I pray you, therefore, to accept my thanks for the many instances you have enabled me to observe a respectable intelligence in that race of men, which cannot fail to have effect in hastening the day of their relief. Okay, the sleep and amusements of the Negro. Some of this stuff is funny. They seem to require less sleep. A black, after hard labor through the day, will be induced by the slightest amusements to set up till midnight or later, though knowing he must be out with the first dawn of the morning. That's us. That shit, look at me. You know what I mean? Like, we do that. Like, a lot of people and stuff, they go to sleep at night. Black people, they be up all night, acted up and shit. Like what's the word? Oh, moon crickets. All those moon crickets making all that noise. Well, I was telling somebody, you always telling that too the other day, Siberians, how me and Willie Grits used to be chilling. Well, Willie Grits white, but Willie Grits is like a nigga. Keep it real. Willie Grits, rest in peace, Willie Grits. Be out, hanging out in the middle of the street, drinking, like all night long. You gotta go to work in the morning. Like, we'll sit out and shit. We all might get an hour of sleep. You have to get back up and go to work and get out of work and do the same thing, hang out all night. Hang out all night. So they're saying that the slaves back then did the same thing. Like, they know damn well they got to be up as soon as the sun come up, or before the sun come up, and they say that the slightest amusement, they'll just start kicking it. And you see that today. You see that today. Where do you go in America where you got white people that's chilling on the corners all night long? Chilling. You don't see that. You see black people do that all over America. All over America. You don't see the white people just chilling out on the corner in front of the corner store at 3 o'clock in the morning. When the last time you see that? I ain't never seen that. I might see some white people roll up in their car going to go buy something and leave. But you don't see them niggas than them just chilling out here. I'm just gonna go hang out in front of the store. You don't see it, and it's amazing because like some of this stuff I can't say he lying. This is stuff that he observed. I don't think he would just make this shit up. Like who would be like he wouldn't be speaking like he spoke with black people. He probably had black friends, right? But his normal peers or the society, like type of society he lived in, he don't gotta lie about this shit. Because there's nobody to contest him, man. Ain't no slave can jump up like, you white man and shit. Ain't nobody be talking no shit to him. So a lot of this stuff, what people will think that these people ain't got no reason to lie because there ain't nobody lied to, right? In general, their existence appears to participate more of sensation than reflection. Mm. To this must be ascribed their disposition to sleep when abstracted from their diversions or unemployed in labor. An animal whose body is at rest and who does not reflect must be disposed to sleep, of course. Talents of Negroes. Nobody wishes more than I do to see such proofs as you exhibit, that nature has given to our black brethren, 17, this is in 1791, Thomas Jefferson called blacks black brethren. Talent is equal to those of the other colors of men, and that the experience of a want of them is owing merely to the degraded condition of their existence both in Africa and America. I have taken the liberty of sending your almanac. Oh, this was written to Benjamin Banneker. He wrote out this, like I said, he had black friends and stuff. I have taken the liberty of sending your almanac to Monsieur Dorset, Secretary of the Academy of Sciences in Paris, and member of the Philanthropic Society, because I considered it as a document to which your color had a right for the justifications against the doubts which have been entertained of them. And now we saw how we read before where he was talking about Benjamin Banneker. They were talking about how Elliot was like bigging him up, puffing him up. I can't find it. You're gonna have to line that. That's interesting. Back. Man. A lot of stuff on the bank. Banneker. I'm gonna read that after. Member of Philanthropic Society, I consider it to be a document to which your color has a right for the justification against the doubts which have been entertained of them. Let me get Oh, my bad. I didn't even hit the damn thing when I came back. Shit. All right, my bad. I got to go back to where I left off to read that. But I read something interesting. Too bad the thing wasn't honest. That's my fault, y'all. Okay. Talents and Negroes. I think that's where I left off. I don't know if anybody that's watching know where I left off. Put it in the chat for me. You guys get all this information. It's really interesting. I start at the sleep and amusement. I start back at that. It seems to require less sleep, right? Saying the Negroes seem to require less sleep. A black, after hard labor through the day, will be induced by the slightest amusement to sit up to midnight or later, though knowing he must be out with the first of dawn in the morning. Like I was saying, it probably wasn't on when I was saying that. But for example, you see black people hanging out on corners all night long. What white neighborhood you look at and you see people do that? I would even see Hispanics do that. But you can go and ghettos and stuff like that. You see black people hanging out all night on the corner, like just doing nothing, like just chilling. For example, me and Willie Grits and stuff. Willie Grits, he black. He ain't black, but you know what I'm saying? He like a nigga. Rest in peace, Willie Grits. Be out here 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Just chilling. You gotta go to work at like 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And we outside chilling, drinking, and everything until like the sun come up. Till like 8 in the morning, we gotta go to work for 2 hours. And go to work and come back and do the same shit. You know what I mean? It says in general, their existence appeared to participate more on sensation than reflection. To this must be ascribed their disposition to sleep with abstract from their divergence and unemployment of labor. An animal whose body is at rest or whose does not reflect must be disposed to sleep. Right? This is on the talent of Negroes. Yeah, Hebrew Israelites complaining about shit. All right, talents and Negroes. Nobody wishes more than I do to see such proofs as you exhibit, that nature has given to our black brethren. So we call them black brethren. Thomas Jefferson talking to Benjamin Banneker. Talents equal to those of the other color of men. That the appearance of a want of them is owing merely to the degraded condition of their existence, both in Africa and America. I have taken the liberty of sending your almanac to Monsieur de Dosset, Secretary of the Academy of Sciences of Paris and a member of the Philanthropic Society, because I consider it to be a document to which your color has a right for the justification against the doubts which have been entertained of them. See that? So the white man took Benjamin Banner's work and sent it to Paris, to the authorities on the sciences system, right? Because of his good works. Called them brethren. Right? Now let's listen to what he wrote to that person in Paris. It says, we have now in the United States a Negro, a son of a black man born in Africa, and a black woman born in America, in the United States, who is a very respectable mathematician. I procured him to be employed under one of our chief directors in laying out of the new federal city on the Potomac. And in the intervals of his leisure, while on that work, he made an almanac for the next year which he sent me in his own handwriting, which I enclose to you. I have seen very elegant solutions of geometrical problems by him. Add to this that he is a very worthy and respectable member of society. He is a free man. I shall be delighted to see these instances of moral eminence so multiplied as to prove that the want of talents observed in them is merely the effect of their degraded condition, and not proceeding from any difference in the structure of parts on which intellect depends. Right? That was in 1791. Negroes, let's get into slavery. What's the stuff I need? Slavery. One second. Slavery. Here we go. There's a lot on slavery. There's a lot on slavery. I'm not gonna read it. I'm not gonna read all the shit to y'all. Right now. Or should I just stop it? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna stop it and continue with the slave part. Oh no, I'll just pick a couple of spots out. Be done. Nah, this is a long topic. Nah, I want to read all of this. Yeah, so I'm gonna end it. This is a lot. This is a whole nother video. We get on there. This will be a part 1, and I'm gonna make a part 2 to this video. Stay on my ass to make a part 2, y'all, if I don't. So that, I don't know, I'll put the link in the chat. Anybody want to hop on? A few minutes. Probably gonna edit this video too. Oh boy. All right, there's a link in the chat. Anybody want to come on and say something? Say hi, cuss me out. Call me gay, bitch, motherfucker, whatever y'all want to do. Y'all know how y'all is. More people hate me than like me. More people hate me than like me. Yeah, so the next one, the part 2, is going to be Indians and slavery. You got Indians and slavery. All right, anybody want to come up here? So, for the Be the Witchfinder General, y'all stay tuned for part 2. Get this thing in. Right? Hopefully, I can do it earlier so I can catch me. So, with that, y'all, God bless y'all. Y'all have a good night. What's the sentiment say? God bless y'all. Good night. It'll be the Witchfinder General. You got to wait to shine.
Witchfinder General. Man's inhumanity to man portrayed on the screen so vividly that you flinched. This man showed no mercy in the pursuit and interrogation of his victims. He was called the Witchfinder General.
Witchfinding ain't easy. Fuck your trick lock. Get this one. Y'all can get your heads lost, spin away like prison. Intelligence agencies trace today. Seeing what I did lately, amazing. They not seeing all the sheep grazing. Flaming pins of Josh, get rocked. Mountaintops go fly. Right enough, fight enough. Yet I'm so nice when I expose. Fuck y'all clothes, costume shop rolls. Catch info like a stroll. Feeling old, so grab a switch. I'ma extol my foes cause they snitch. Since they can't ruin me, I'ma ruin them. That chopped off head will still spin. Burning riches in they sin. You can't lie, we can't die. I know what y'all said. Just a fresh decay, but eternally, I don't see it that way. Pave the road clear is what you said, but your thought gonna leave people dead. Claim God, but God don't know you. Watch your desires overthrow you. Man fall down, man go boom. Mask wearing like doom. All caps like y'all yelling. That's a rap. Might as well be felons. Y'all words are letters. On YouTube, acting precious. Mr. Nexus, feel the sun from the solar plexus. Tasting breakfast, finding all those devices that detect us. Yo, show respect, cuz.
And what line of business, my dear? God's business. Which finding? Which finding? Oh, that's
Y'all need for that next buzz, or some buzz. Watch the general rule bloods, internet warriors, caught up in dark corridors. Fiction like Mordor, should've stayed on the floor. Y'all know no origins. Laughing orphans, even though we got royal blood coursing. No more horsing, real life's more important. Y'all speaking curse on yourself, claiming God and no one else. Blast you off the shelf, burn your whole library. See you do it, look, y'all claim and learn, reading from the Jewish books. Y'all some cookie crooks, live caught up with a hook. Spooky beats drive me wild. Get stabbed, my knife, old child. Old man, old style. Used to pull kelp out the Nile, and I did it with a smile. Fake roots, smell vile. Rock like Hendrix at the aisle. After a while, see Jefferson's on trial. Yeah, you, the one claiming proof. Unglued and unruly, expose their actions fully. Call me a bully, but that's fine. This is how you get bullied straight from the mind. Burning them. We cats out there, we have faith in y'all. They claim they read all this, that they know all this. Claiming they speak languages, curses.
Be the first to see it. Be the first to talk about it. The Wix Finder General.
All right, y'all, I'm out. Peace. About to talk some more shit out of Facebook.